Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're raising our prices. Quick, what's 17% of $0? It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you this week. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including some friction between the Smash World Tour and Nintendo and Panda Global. And then on Thursday, we are having the third annual Cardi Awards. But Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. Patrick, we have talked previously on the show about how much I love cereal and eating a lot of cereal. Not the podcast,
but like eating cereal out of a bowl.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so, but listeners may also know that cereal is generally very sugary. And so I tried one of those, you might have heard it advertised on other podcasts, like one of those cereals.
No free ads, Mark. Mark, no free ads here.
I was stumbling over it, but I'm not going to do it. One of those advertised cereals that they're like
one
sugary.
Of these spell casting bowls.
Yes, yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. That they use the sugar substitutes, but it's supposed to taste just like Fruit Loops or something like that. And so I saw it at Target, had never tried it, finally tried it. And the taste is whatever. But I was looking at the ingredients, and cereal generally is like barely just food stuff. But looking at this, it is just barely food stuff. Like the first ingredient is whey and soy protein, or like casein protein. And then it's all the sugar substitutes. And then way down there, like fourth or fifth, is tapioca. So this is just whey protein and sugar substitutes held together in Fruit Loop form by tapioca. That's all it is.
I think that's fair and fine though, because like you say, most cereal is like Frankenstein food, right? That like the fact that like Honey Nut Cheerios is like good for your heart, has iron in it. That's because they like inject that stuff into each individual Cheerio.
I know, but for some reason, and maybe it's because I've been a cereal eater for a really long time, and so I have grown accustomed to like the first ingredient in all of these being like enriched wheat flour made with whole wheat, and I'm like, this is real food stuff. Whether it is or not, in my head, it plays that way.
Mark, it's all just different food stuff pressed into a loop shape. Like that's all it is.
I mean, all of this.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I recently discovered that I have a thing with Diet Coke, and I assume this will extend to other diet sodas, where I drink one and it gives me a headache because I am getting the like flavor sensation of something very sweet, and so my mind prepares my body for like you're about to get this extra energy from sugar, and then there's no sugar.
Interesting.
And so I have like a crash. I have like a sugar crash, but like almost immediately upon drinking a Diet Coke. Do you experience this at all with like artificial sweeteners at all?
I feel like it's really hard to tell, because it's like, do I feel terrible because it's the artificial sweetener, or do I feel terrible because I just ate whey and casein protein wrapped in a thin veneer of tapioca, pressed into a loop form, and eat like 2.5 cups of it?
Or do you feel terrible because you've just borrowed my copy of Sonic Forces, as our listeners could? All you gotta do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address where we can send you not tapioca and whey protein pressed together in the shape of a ring, but many gold rings in the form of my copy of Sonic Forces. You can play the game for as long as you like. I pay for postage both ways. That's to you and then back to me, so that we can send it back out to someone who is not you, who can then send it back to me. I I pay for postage 4 times in that equation. It costs you nothing. But it may cost you this. It may cost you the fact that there's an Untitled Goose Game in there instead of Sonic Forces. That's just something that happens. It's part of the program. It is the perfect borrowing program. Yes, Mark.
Before we get to this next part, I just want to say that when I was younger, when in the early years of this show, I used to dread the debug, but now I've learned to embrace it
Yeah, let's embrace the debug.
because being wrong is, part of how you grow.
Well, and that's Mark is saying this because we are about to head into a debug because I made a mistake last week. And yeah, I think you're right. This is how we grow, and B, it gives us the freedom to be wrong because then we'll just correct it later, which is beautiful. I love the opportunity to be wrong. Last week, I don't know what I called it. I don't know what words tumbled out of my mouth, but I was trying to describe the Fire Emblem themed Muso game that I picked up on sale from Best Buy. The name of the game is Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Not at all what I said. I believe I said Fire Emblem Heroes 3 Houses or something like that. But so thank you to, I believe, Silvergrass Moon in the Discord for pointing out my mistake. These naming conventions are absurd. I'm not, I shouldn't be making excuses. I was wrong, and I apologize. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week.
So Splatoon 3 is in its chill season right now, launched on December 1st, and I have been playing a little bit of the game, mostly, so I feel like, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, we're embracing it.
We're embracing it. Debug away.
I don't know that I can actually, okay, what I was going to say is that I don't know that I can actually benefit from a lot of the content in chill season because I haven't progressed that far in, I don't play a ton of Turf War, so there's a lot of items from that I can't get, but I actually don't think that's true. I just can't get the items from last season anymore, right? But I can start earning the new items that are in this one. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Anyways, I've been playing Splatoon 3, mostly Salmon Run, getting ready for the big run this weekend. I'll unfortunately be
is that this weekend?
Yeah, so
yes.
we'll talk about a little bit of news, but I'll unfortunately be traveling for the majority of it, but I'm hoping to get in a little bit on Friday afternoon. But man, I not a ton to say other than I love Salmon Run, and it was a good opportunity because I had kind of put Splatoon 3 down and wasn't playing it as often. So, the start of this new season was a good reason for me to get into it again.
I should check back in on it in much the same way, for much the same reason. Because, man, that big run, that's exciting. I want to just, experience it, if nothing else. And it'd be great to not be terrible at the game when it happens, right? That's always the goal.
That's always the goal.
Mark, I have been playing, not just misremembering the name of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. After picking it up on Black Friday, I have actually now spent some time with it this weekend, and I continue to like everything that I liked about it when I was playing the demo version. Gotta say, I love having the import my demo save feature in that, so I can just jump right in at chapter 4. Does it mean that I was a little bit lost in the story when I started? Yes. But the story is mostly nonsense anyway, and the characters are all characters that I know from 3 Houses, so I already have affinity for a lot of them. Edelgard, Caspar, Lindhart, these guys are great. I'm just happy to see them again. And the it remains impressive to me how much the between fights portions of Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes resembles the between fight portions of Fire Emblem 3 Houses. That it's not quite as robust, but all of the same training and cooking and all of that kind of stuff still happens, and you're still building these relationships. But now there's there are a few more characters in there, and you're also upgrading your camp. And I don't know, I'm just I'm just like thrilled to be back in the world of Three Houses.
That's really cool. I'm curious, and this is not like a you're not making a commitment or a promise or anything, but I like do you think you're enjoying it enough that you will see it through to the end?
I think it's possible. Like there's it's so like chill and low impact. One of the things that I really like about the combat portions of it, again, this is a Muso game. It plays like a Dynasty Warriors or a Hyrule Warriors. But one of the things that I really like about it is that it makes very clear the I don't know if you can do this in other Warriors games, but like at any point in this one, you can pull up the map and you can select your other units, the units that you're not controlling, and send them to other places on the map to like fight enemies, like in very Fire Emblem sort of style. And you can see like the weapons triangle in there, so like like okay, these guys have axes, and they're going up against these guys that have spears. Great, I'm gonna win that one. And then like I'm running around on the battlefield playing it in regular warriors fashion, but also sort of on the side running a like strategic like RTS, which is just like a fun little like combo. And so yeah, I mean I think I'm drawn in enough by the between fight stuff, and I'm enjoying the fights well enough. And I don't really mind like when I'm just like hacking away on bad guys and I just got like a podcast going. Like that's perfect chill hangout time for me. The thing is, so right now I'm mostly going back and forth between that and God of War Ragnarok. Which God of War Ragnarok remains great. It's a wonderful game, but it fully demands all of your senses as you're playing it, right? Like they're talking almost all the time, and it's like compelling story and like good acting. So like I want to hear it, but like it's so many video games I engage with while like having some other like auditory thing happening, be it a podcast or an audiobook or even just listening to music. And it's I find now that playing a game that requires all of that attention to be a little limiting. But I mean, is that weird, Mark? Do you relate to that?
No, completely relate to it. I feel like it's one of just like my ongoing struggles with like being able to spend time in a game is that I feel like I want to have like the perfect, situation, the perfect setup where I'm like, okay, I, have done everything I need to do for the day, and now I can just sit down
Yeah.
and I can just immerse myself in this game uninterrupted for like 2 or 3 hours. And that's just not a thing that like exists in my life currently. And so,
Yeah.
it's so I feel like it's kind of that same thing where it's like, yeah, when you have a game that demands your full attention and like it just makes it uh more of a it just feels like more of a commitment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And God of War just keeps going. What a long game! I believe I crossed the 20-hour mark over the weekend, and I am like nowhere near the end of this game.
Well,
And then
have
Mark,
you
both you,
I
yeah.
was just gonna ask for with God of War, have you tried just like not doing any button inputs? Because I know that's a trick they've pulled in the past.
What do you mean?
Well, what was it? God of War 3 or something that the game doesn't end, like you just keep beating up what's his name until
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
What's his name? Zeus.
What's his face?
Look, the end of God of War 3 on PlayStation 3, one of the great endings of a video game where it will never prompt you to stop pushing the circle button to smash Zeus's head further. And it just like fulfills your bloodlust that you can wail on his head literally forever. It never stops. Um, uh, and then then when you do finally stop, you see that the world is in ruins because you destroyed their gods. Oops. Great game and a great ending. Mark, you and I have both been playing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, because we were talking about it on the Super Gamer Boys podcast. So if you subscribe to their Patreon, you can go and check out that conversation. Mark, I think we had a very fun and insightful conversation with Adrian and Garrett.
Yeah, thanks so much to them for having us on.
Yep, so check that out if you can. All right, Mark, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
River City Girls is the Nintendo Switch Online game trial for North America, and it's available this week, starting today, December 6th, running through December 12th. And if you are a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber, you can play it for free. Just like the other game trials, it's the full game, but if you participate in the trial, you also get 100 platinum points.
So I was just thinking about this today. So this is cool. I'm excited about it. I think River City Girls is one of those games that I probably should have picked up in the first place. I've been digging the like vibe of the like modern retro brawler. Um, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge was, I think, probably my favorite new game of this last year. Um, yeah, I'm gonna check this out. Mark, I've never really reflected on this, but do you think it's weird that Nintendo opens this up for a week? First of all, these things happen so infrequently, right? And they open these things up for a week, and it's not that you have a week to download the game for free. It's that you have a week to play the game for free.
Yeah, it is. It feels very Nintendo to do it this way,
Yes.
but
Uh-huh.
also, yeah, why are it seems like these should just be running constantly. Like one
Yeah.
ends and another one begins. Instead of, like you said, it's like so infrequent that I almost forget that it's a thing that they do.
Totally. Or like, yeah, that, right, that it happens so infrequently that I forget that it's the thing that they do. But then like you compare it to something like the PlayStation Plus free games, and like as long as you download the game during that month, or even just like mark it as like you're redeeming it, then you can access it forever as long as you're a subscriber. And like that's just so much more generous, but it's the same like level of game. Like I'm sure River City Girls has been this on PlayStation Plus, or like has been for free on Xbox's Game Pass. Couldn't remember the name of the service that I've unsubscribed to twice. uh, but yeah, I'm interested in checking this out. Hopefully, I'm gonna have some time this week to play it a little bit.
And then the other new release I wanted to call out is that on this Friday, December 9th, Dragon Quest Treasures is released, which is like a spin-off game that is, I think, kind of like a prequel starring Eric from Dragon Quest 11, and I don't have to say the full name because it's all versions of Dragon Quest 11 that he's in, and
Wow.
his younger sister Mia. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that this started out life as a Dragon Quest Monsters game, which is like a spin-off franchise, or what, spin-off franchise, or yeah, basically like a side franchise of
Yeah.
the mainline Dragon Quest games, but kind of turned into its own thing. But yeah, it comes out and I saw previews that started to be released for it, and they are positive for what they're posting so far, but I think it's just
Hmm.
like the early beginnings of the game. But I, to be completely honest, do not really understand what this game is, but I like Dragon Quest 11 a lot. Eric is a great character, and it looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, and I also checked out some of the preview stuff today, and I still don't totally understand. Like, I don't get what the moment to moment gameplay is.
No, and they take some of them mention like, oh, this is like, I you can see how it comes from Dragon Quest Monsters or something. Just taking for granted that I will understand
That
what that
we
means.
know what that is. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't know what that means. Yeah, no, I also am interested in this game. I want to see like how it reviews and if I can ever understand what the game actually is. But I like Eric and Mia a lot from Dragon Quest 11. I thought the story beats around their relationship and like what happens to them as kids. I found that to be very compelling. So like if this game is like effectively spending more time with them, I think I gotta check it out. Um, they're also a little bit more in like that chibi style, a little bit the Dragon Quest Builders aesthetic, which I like a lot too. So this is coming out on like everything, right? Not just
Yeah.
Switch.
Yep, that's right.
Yes. Okay. Well, it may be something that appeals to me more on a non-Switch platform. And this maybe one to like really keep that in mind to just like see how performance is everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's like an open world-ish game, or it has like large fields, and yeah, it might be one that it ends up running better on other platforms, but
Yeah, but I
Interesting
mean,
to
like
check out.
the Builders games run fine on Switch. Mark, do you know if this is on Switch being published by Nintendo or is it being published by Square Enix?
My assumption
That's
is because it's on other platforms that it's being published by Square Enix.
I mean that the Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch is published by Nintendo on Switch, as are the two Builders games. And I think some of that is because they had to like do something special to bring it to that platform.
Uh-huh.
But I just it's interesting that like Nintendo has been like, no, we need to publish these things on our platform. We'll do whatever we need to do to like be the publisher for that.
Well, I just looked it up to see, and it is even on the Switch. This one is published by Square Enix.
Very interesting. Okay, great. That thank you, Mark, for looking that up and answering my question. So we're gonna keep an eye on this. Look, we are committed to our Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. Did I say it right?
You did, yeah.
We are committed to that fandom. So it's possible that we investigate this one at one point or another. All right, Mark, let's get out of the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, why don't you set up this quiz that we're doing together?
Yeah, so what we're doing today is in the spirit of the season. We are going to read through some plot synopses for a Hallmark Christmas movie, but some of them are fake. These were written by BuzzFeed in 2017. I don't know why the date is important, but there you go. So we're gonna take turns.
Pre-pandemic, it's important
Yeah,
to know.
That's right. So we're gonna go back and forth, and we'll read the synopsis and then try to determine whether it's true or false. Neither of us know the answers to these.
Okay, I'll go first. Newly single and unemployed, Elise finds herself running her family's Christmas tree lot. Unfortunately, the lot has a new landlord who has zero Christmas spirit and who threatens to shut them down. With the help of a handsome customer, Darren, Elise tries to save her family's business. What do you think?
My gut, I don't know. Since it's the first one on the quiz, I'm trying to outsmart the quiz. This is the first on the quiz. I want to say real, but to me, it sounds like the stakes are too high for a Hallmark Christmas movie. I don't know that there's that much bah humbug in like a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Ooh, interesting. I don't know about that. I feel like the stakes are too grounded, which makes me think that it's fake.
Okay, so
like they're high, but they're grounded. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So fake for different reasons, but we're going with fake. Okay,
we're going with fake. No, it was true.
It was real.
It's
true. It's
called
real.
Fur Crazy.
I should have known the first one on the quiz.
Should've gone with your
real.
gut.
That's okay. Here we go. A set of identical twins are dissatisfied with their current situations, so they decide to switch lives for the Christmas season. By doing so, they each learn the true meaning of their own lives.
But not the true meaning of Christmas. I'm saying it's fake.
I think you're right. I think it's fake.
There we
No,
go.
it's also real.
No. It's Switched for Christmas is the name of it. Ooh, starring Candace Cameron. No, thank you. All right. Catherine, a high-powered attorney, finds herself in a moral conundrum when she must represent a large corporation that's threatening to build on the land a small town uses for its annual Christmas fair.
I feel like my gut is all wrong on these, but I'm going to say this is real. But I think based on the quiz, it has to be fake.
Because we've done unless this is one where they're just all real, and that's the psych out. That's the game of it. We're gonna defer to your instincts on this one, Mark. What are you saying?
I'm gonna say oh my gosh. Oh, do you know what? Okay. The plot sounds like it could be real to me, but I'm gonna say fake only because the quiz has had 2 real ones so far.
It is fake. All right, that's not real. Okay.
Jessica is in charge of finding a Santa for her town's Christmas parade, but her only option is a stubborn Uber driver who lives 200 miles away. She hires him for a trip home in hopes of convincing him to take the Santa gig.
Ooh, and then it would all like take place like in like on the Uber ride.
And how is it her only option?
And if he lives 200 miles away, then how does she get him to come all the way out to where this is fake? This we can't wrap our heads around the logic. It's got to be fake. Oh, it's
Oh, it's
real.
real.
It's called Finding
Finding
Santa.
Santa. Jodie Sweetin, though,
Uh,
another Full House alum. Keeping.
uh,
There we go.
and one who's more queer friendly
That's
than
right.
Candace Cameron. Is it me now or you?
It's you.
Okay, a former hotel maid becomes a governess for a young girl, only to find out that the girl is actually a princess with a very handsome father.
Sounds like it could be real to me.
It sounds real to me too. Let's go real. It is real. That's the plot to Crown for Christmas.
Ashley is a marriage counselor who is unlucky in love, but when she starts counseling an older couple who look remarkably like Mr. and Mrs. Claus, she falls in love with their son, Matthew.
I think this is fake, but I would watch this movie.
Patrick, I feel the same exact way. I'm like, I think it's fake.
It's too good.
But it's too good. This should be a movie.
Let's choose fake. Yeah, we're right. It is fake.
Oh, man. Oh, it's good.
We've got 11 seconds left on the timer here, but we're just gonna do this last one. A seamstress finds out that her boyfriend is actually a prince when she travels to his home to meet the royal in-laws.
So this to me sounds like a riff on the like Christmas
Christmas Prince. Mhm.
But is not the plot of Christmas Prince. So I think this one is fake.
I'm gonna say that it's real, because I think most of these movies are riffs on Christmas Prince.
Do you think that okay, I'm going to guess the title. We're going to say it's real and I'm going to guess the title is A Stitch for Christmas.
A Royal Christmas is what it is.
Not bad. Not bad.
Starring Lacey Chabert and Jane Seymour. All right, we didn't get to the end of the quiz, but we were accompanied today by a timer on my iPhone 7 Plus. Mark, let's get into the news.
Last Tuesday, Nintendo held another short direct to premiere the trailer, the second trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie. It followed the same format as the first. You got Shigeru Miyamoto, you got Chris Meledandri from Illumination, like congratulating each other, and then and then you got a couple actors from the movie, giving a little like spiel up top, via Zoom. This time you got Anya Taylor-Joy who's playing Princess Peach, and Seth Rogen, who's playing Donkey Kong instead of Chris Pratt, and Jack Black. So the trailer gave us our first look at Princess Peach and Donkey Kong in the movie. I don't know, Patrick, any thoughts on this reveal?
Well, so I mean, first, just the format by which they do these things. It's so funny that like they're going to keep. This is it. Like this is how they publicize movies. Is they're like it's a trailer, but there's a preamble with like the two guys at the top, and then like the actors gotta like try and convince you that they have memories of playing video games. And I gotta say, Seth Rogen coming in with enough specifics and with enough Seth Rogen energy that I believe him, and like got excited to see his Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I think Seth Rogen was definitely the Jack Black of this direct. Although I
Yes.
thought Anya Taylor-Joy acquitted herself just fine.
Yes, of course. She acquitted herself just fine. Didn't say anything weird like stomping Koopas in the arcades, like Chris Pratt did. But yeah, onto the trailer itself. Feeling pretty good about this movie at this point.
Yeah, I think it looks cute. There were okay, so when there's like a moment, maybe at the very beginning, where like Mario walks out into this arena where, all
Yeah.
of like Bowser's minions are cheering and he has to go face to face with Donkey Kong. I was like, oh, somebody else saw Thor Ragnarok too. And then the other part I thought was interesting was when like just you see glimpses of it, but it seems like the classic Super Mario Brothers, like from the first game level design, is in this game almost, or in this movie almost as like a training ground, like a Wipeout
Yeah.
esque, like obstacle course that Mario tries to get through while he's training for something with Princess Peach.
Yeah, well, and you can see some of like those. Sorry, what was the point that you were driving at about the beginning as he's squaring off against Donkey Kong?
Oh, it just reminded me of the part in Thor Ragnarok when
Just that it
Hulk
reminded
and
you of Ragnarok. Yeah.
like when Hulk and Thor like fight each other.
Absolutely. I anticipate that there won't be any like turn here of like I'm friends with Donkey Kong. Like I think the Donkey Kong is going to be like a menace to him in this encounter. I thought you were going to refer to the deadly serious "Let's a go" moment from from
Oh.
Chris Pratt's Mario. Um, yeah, how are you feeling about that voice at this point?
I like I don't really have any feelings about it. Like I think it's fine, which is actually probably like the best case scenario out of
Yeah.
this, based on my fears of a year ago, or whenever it was, like 9 months ago, when we found out that Chris Pratt was going to be the voice. Um, I was kind of like not looking forward to that, but now like I don't really feel one way or the other about it. How about you?
I mean I feel pretty good about it, frankly. And it's I don't want to put much stock in like groupthink reactions, especially as they appear on like social media or Twitter specifically. But like I do think that people are looking to dislike the Chris Pratt Mario voice for obvious reasons. But I don't dislike it. It doesn't sound low effort to me, which is a criticism that I've seen. And it just like I don't know. It seems like the rest of the movie is going to be like fun and colorful and like pretty good, and most of what he's doing fits into that. Um, so yeah, I'm generally pretty positive on what we've seen so far.
Well, speaking of internet like groupthink, I will say one group that I agree with are those that are saying that Mario's butt is not big enough.
Yes,
Just fill out
that's
those
it.
jeans a little bit. That's it. And then the second part is that I am really liking these like kind of like slowed down like serious orchestration versions of the Super Mario Brothers theme. It does make me wonder if it'll be like a Rise of Skywalker situation where it's not actually in the
It's not in the
movie.
movie.
That is just created for the trailer, but I think they're pretty cool.
So this is obviously a trend in trailers because it's also what's happening in the Indiana Jones 5 trailer, that like the slowed down like big orchestral hits of the Indiana Jones theme. And I found that it bothered me in the Dial of Destiny trailer that I was like,
I didn't
this
like
is
it
not the
either.
spirit.
Yeah. Sorry, listeners. Patrick and I haven't actually talked about the Dial of Destiny
We haven't
trailer.
talked about it yet. Let's do it right now.
Yeah. But yeah, it bothered me too. Look, I am super excited for that movie. I think James
Yeah, it'll
Mangold
be fun.
is a great
Yep.
choice. It looks like a lot of fun, but I did not like the musical cue that accompanied the trailer. I agree with you 100%.
It feels like a betrayal to the spirit, and I understand that you could apply this exact same logic to the Mario music, but it feels like a betrayal of the spirit of the Indiana Jones music, which is like he's riding a horse, he's catching up to a tank, like it's an adventure, and to be like, no, it's like a heroic, it's like an epic, noble adventure. Like, no.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And eventually it like kicks in and you get the like Raiders fanfare and everything, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it just did not it didn't work for me. It was definitely supposed to be tickling that's those same like nostalgia buttons, and maybe it was supposed to be like if you saw it in theaters without knowing that it was an Indiana Jones trailer, you'd be like,
Yeah,
is this
yeah.
Indiana Jones? But in the context of, hey, there's a new trailer for the Indiana Jones movie and it's called Dial of Destiny, click here to watch it, it didn't really work for
Right.
me.
Well, and I also wonder if there's just something about like tone that's being established there because when they do the heavy orchestration of the Mario theme, it's funny, right? Like it moves something in you, but it's also like this is funny. It's a little ridiculous, and I think that's the spirit of the movie, right? Whereas Indiana Jones is not that. Like it's
Yeah.
not laughing at itself,
No,
and
it
I
just
think
feels it made it feel a little too portentous, I think.
yes, yeah, yeah.
I have nothing
Yep,
else to say
I
about
agree.
the Mario movie.
All right, we will look. We will now stop. Have we've declared that we are stopping talking about the Mario movie multiple times through the run of this podcast, and now we will stop talking about it again until the next trailer is released, introduced by Charlie Day and Keegan Michael Key.
Which is 100% who it's going to be. Whatever is happening. Okay, all right. So we have to talk about what is happening with Smash World Tour, Nintendo, and Panda Global. So
Yes.
there's a lot here. So Smash World Tour is it's a worldwide collection of tournaments featuring Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and they are claiming that it has been shut down by Nintendo, and Nintendo disputes that. And that's kind of where things stand at the moment.
Right. And there's obviously a lot more details here to color in what exactly has happened. But so just here's some context for how the Smash World Tour describes themselves and describes like their importance and their size. Quote, in 2022 alone, we connected over 6,400 live events worldwide with over 325,000 in-person entrants, making the Smash World Tour the largest esports tour in history for any game title. The championships also would have had the largest prize pool in Smash history at over $250,000. The 2023 Smash World Tour planned to have a prize pool of over $350,000. So like not a small or insignificant organization or series of events by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and the championships were due to be held this weekend, so starting December 9th. But according to the organizers, they received word the day before Thanksgiving that they could not legally proceed with any further events. This all despite a sort of like soft non-agreement they had between with them and Nintendo, where like Smash World Tour did what they did with virtually no support or interference from Nintendo. Basically, they weren't like officially licensed, but Nintendo was taking like a basically just like a hands-off approach.
Right. And it seemed like they weren't like out of communication with each other, that it wasn't bizarre for them, for Nintendo to call a meeting for them to have, this discussion wherein they are supposedly told that they can no longer do the tournament. But yeah. So it's not they're not they don't have a formal partnership, but they had been allowed to operate in doing what they were doing for at least the last year. I don't really know the history of Smash World Tour.
Right. And there seems to be some kind of there disagreement or ambiguity about why exactly it was that Nintendo was telling them they had to stop right now. So some reports suggest that Nintendo didn't actually tell them to cancel the championship, but the very fact that apparently there was this like Wednesday before Thanksgiving meeting just a couple of weeks before the championship seems that there was like some sort of urgency to whatever
Yeah,
Nintendo was trying to talk about.
it certainly implies an urgency. There's a statement that Nintendo supplied to Kotaku that reads that they, quote, did not request any changes to or cancellation of remaining events in 2022, including the 2022 championship event. But that has been refuted by the organizers of the event. So it's unclear what exactly went down in this meeting or how it was expressed.
Yeah, so according to Smash World Tour, the organizers of the tournament, they asked to run an unlicensed tournament in 2023. So they're currently unlicensed. Asked to continue to run an unlicensed tournament in 2023 while continuing to negotiate a license for 2024. But according to them, Nintendo told them no, and then Nintendo also allegedly told them that they hadn't, quote, met expectations around health and safety guidelines, nor had they, quote, adhered to internal partner guidelines.
Now, at this point, we got to zoom out and rewind a little bit, because Evo last year, which is a big fighting game tournament that incorporated a lot of different games, including Smash Brothers, was sort of canceled amid controversy of there being abuse and all of these things within the community, particularly around the Smash Brothers community, which made all video game publishers kind of gun shy about partnering with Evo. Sony bought Evo so that they could do it themselves, and like basically everyone withdrew their support from that event until like Sony came in as the grown-ups to be like, we're going to run this thing, we're going to take corporate responsibility for it, legal responsibility for it, and just run it all ourselves. And Smash has not been a part of that, and it's always sort of been seen that Nintendo was trying to get more control over that stuff, but doesn't have a ton of experience of actually running ongoing like tournaments and stuff. They do like Nintendo World Championships and stuff like that, but the sort of ongoing care that the fighting game community would need is not something that Nintendo like really does. So they did license Smash Brothers to a company called Panda Global. Now there's history with Panda Global and the Smash events that they were attempting to host, and the specifically with this is when the character of Alan Bunny shows up. He's the CEO of Panda Global, and this guy has a reputation for being like a little bit of a business bully, using the exclusivity of the Smash license to sort of bully partners of the Smash World Tour into doing business with him instead of doing business with them.
Allegedly, he denies all
Allegedly,
of
this
this.
is all allegedly.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
but
he denies all of this.
he denies all of this. And there's also just an element where like as Nintendo's official partner with the actual license, he may be operating within totally reasonable bounds of like, yeah, they have the official license to do these things, or to run these tournaments and like make whatever partnerships that could be with someone who has the license to do this, right? In any event, whatever his motivations, whatever like deviousness is there, he got sort of like tagged by the Smash and like the fighting game community in general as the villain of this, and Bunny has since stepped down slash was pushed out, was fired, also unclear, from Panda Global. So Mark, where are we at the end of this?
Well, hold on. Before we
or
get
is there more?
Yeah,
Okay.
before we get to the end, I want to say that at the time that Nintendo partnered with Panda Global, we were like, "Oh, this makes a lot of sense. It's a way for
Yes.
Nintendo to align with like professionals who, so they don't get into like an Evo type mess." And then when these, when Smash World Tour came out and said that Nintendo forced us to cancel, there were a lot of allegations that, like Panda Global, like you were saying, Patrick, was basically kind of being a bully and being like, hey, we're officially licensed, so you need to tell these guys to either like, like pay up or
Right.
like shut them down. And so
Which, as someone paying for the license, you got to assume like if you pay for an exclusive license and then Nintendo's letting someone operate without the license, like I can understand the motivation for wanting to enforce the exclusivity.
So Panda Global was like silent for days and then released a statement on its own saying, basically backing up what Nintendo said, which is that first of all, Cup, like the Panda Cup team didn't have anything to do with the Nintendo telling Smash World Tour that they need to cancel. But then also in the statement, there's this like weird bit that says this Alan Bunny guy, quote, first of all, yeah, he's been like a outspoken supporter of the fighting game community and Smash World Tour specifically. But then also, he had spoken to a company called Beyond the Summit, which is an esports network, quote, in a manner which did not reflect either guidance from Nintendo or our own standards. As such, Panda Global quote has taken efforts to rectify the situation, to remove the possibility of future miscommunication from occurring. So just like weird. All of this is just so
Yeah, it's all
weird.
very weird. Right. So like it's unclear if like he's an opportunist or just like a corporate bully or if there's something even like worse at play here. It's there's no point in speculating on that, so I apologize for starting down that road. But like yeah, it's just there's 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 so much messiness here and like the thing that sucks is that like in the wake of all of this, Smash World Tour is effectively like financially ruined and doesn't get to operate anymore. Tournaments and organizations do go under all the time, but it's you don't like to see a community of passionate people not get to do what they want to do.
Yeah, it's just I wish we knew more, and I hope that more does come out so that there's like some amount of like it would be sad if this is the total resolution that there is that there's just complete disagreement on what actually happened, and then Smash World Tour, like cease to exist. But that
Yeah,
that feels like the most likely outcome at this point, to be completely honest. But I don't know. I guess I'm hoping for some sort of something to put a bow on all of this because it's such a messy situation.
yeah, truly a messy situation. But I think it's also like messier than the sort of like headlines or community reaction would suggest. Right, the community reaction it has clear villains, and I don't think, with the possible exception of this Alan Bunny guy, I don't know that there are any real villains.
Yeah, it also makes you wonder what becomes of the relationship with Nintendo and Panda Global going forward.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially when like there were those rumors of like a Zelda Netflix thing that like someone talked about, and then Nintendo was like, "Well, forget it, we're not doing it then." That it's an easy company to offend when you're doing business with them.
Yeah. So we'll see. Well, in other news, Microsoft has announced that they are joining Sony, Ubisoft, and Take Two in pricing their new first party releases at $70 in the United States starting next year. Um, they've been $60 for a long time since the 360 era. And so, it's been a good amount of time since we've had a price release. The writing's kind of been on the wall once Sony and other companies started going that direction. But the reason I bring it up here, Patrick, is I'm just curious on your thoughts if Nintendo will follow suit when it releases its new hardware, in the future, whether next year, 2 years from that. Because I feel like historically Nintendo's kind of been a follower to this trend, not necessarily a leader.
Not a leader. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I feel like it's tough to say because Nintendo historically has also had this like second arm of their publishing that's been putting out 3DS or DS or Game Boy or whatever, handheld games that are like always at a lower price point, right? And that's just, especially as they have so many games like aimed at kids. Like the Pokemon game specifically is the first thing that comes to mind, where it's like if you're a kid, maybe you can even scrape together the $80 to get both versions of like a DS game, but like $120 to get both Pokemon games on Switch, or if it goes up to $140 to get both of them, like that starts to feel like an even taller and taller ask. So I don't know. I do think that there is and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the pricing of the PSVR 2. I think there is just like some catch up that pricing needed to do before the pandemic, even that developers and publishers were just finding other ways to make money through DLC or season passes or whatever. And they did that, and it was like sort of a stopgap solution. And now it's just like, yeah, they need to catch up. If you so yeah, I think the $70 is inevitable, and I think that Nintendo will get there in time. But like I just think about like I paid $80 for Chrono Trigger on Super Nintendo when it came out, and yeah, I mean, 1995 or whatever. So what that is in today's money, that game is super expensive. Um, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's only a matter of time before Nintendo meets them there?
Yeah, I do. I think one of the things one thing that I was seeing online in discussion about this, which I think is an interesting point, is that Nintendo first party games don't really go on sale that often.
Yeah.
So, they maintain that $60 value in a way that, like an Ubisoft game or a Take-Two game, generally those go on sale fairly quickly after release and fairly often in a way that like Nintendo just doesn't. But
Well, and severely eventually, right? Eventually, you can get a 3-year-old Ubisoft game for like $10.
Right. And it's just like that's just not the Nintendo model, but at the same time, I do think that it is inevitable, but I do think also that Nintendo will wait until like new hardware. But
Yeah.
I also feel like, and you are seeing, I feel like we have seen this with Sony, and I think that as games get more expensive, I do think variable pricing will become more and more of a thing. We've seen Nintendo play with it a little bit, like WarioWare uh
Get it together.
Get It Together, was like $50 versus 60. Um
And Nintendo Switch Sports was 40 instead of 60.
right. And
Right? It
so
was 40, or
yeah,
maybe it was 50 with the leg strap.
yeah, but I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think it was like 40 digitally. But so I think that that will become more common as, like the price of games continues to grow, which I think is actually like a healthy thing where it's like, yeah, like maybe the cream of the crop AAA is like a $70 experience, but yeah, don't charge me $70 for the next WarioWare game. And
Yeah.
maybe that puts more room in there for those like 3DS style experiences that I hoped would come to Switch. Um, but we just like haven't really seen. Like, what does Nintendo price a new 2D Zelda game, in the style of A Link
Right.
Between Worlds? Well, maybe in a world where the $70 price point exists, then that is like 60 or $50. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe it just gives
Yeah.
more breathing room there.
Right, like they charged a full $60 for Link's Awakening, but that is like a graphical overhaul, and like you can argue for like there being real value there. I I think a better price for that game is $40 or $50, but like if they actually genuinely did a game that had less intensive graphical demands. That like actually did require less like development time, that they could sell for $40, like a true 3DS style game. It seems like they should be able to do that, but maybe that's not of interest. If they can, I mean, Pokemon at $60 sold 10 million copies over their opening weekend. So you know what? Why would they explore that scale?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's really difficult. It's really difficult to know for sure. But I just feel like because I feel like also what happened with like Sony and now Microsoft and the third party publishers is that for a while they were like, okay, we can maintain it at $60 because we can monetize and grow in other ways with DLC and all that kind of stuff. And I think they still intend to do that, but now you have to look for another revenue source, another way to grow
Right.
revenues. And when you've been keeping games at $60 for like 15 years, that seems like an obvious way to increase revenue.
What was probably an like really effective in the keeping games at $60 is the rise of digital purchases of games. That if you're not paying to put it on a disc or put it on a cartridge or whatever, put it in a box, send it to a store, pay the store to carry it. Like cutting out a lot of middlemen means that your individual cut on a platform is much bigger, especially when those platforms are owned by Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. That probably helped them quite a bit to keep prices steady, while making more money.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's just like all these little ways that they were able to like increase profit margins, but now
Yes.
they've exhausted those and it's like, okay, we have to come up with a new way to grow and increase revenue.
Right. And I hear also that there's like a little bit of like sob story for some of the most profitable entertainment properties in the world. but they gotta make money. That's why they exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little hard to root for Ubisoft, Take-Two, and EA, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, and also, like, should we be rooting for any of these companies? I don't know. Let's just root for games experiences that we want at prices we can afford.
Well, speaking of which, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion releases
Woo!
next week. And as we get closer to the release date, Square Enix has posted an FAQ about the game. So some highlights from that. Um, the game was ported using Unreal Engine. The game has full English voiceover for the first time, and the dialogue was recorded by the same voice actors used for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Awesome. Gotta say, that's awesome. That's so cool. I can't believe they're unifying this like aesthetic of remake under like one banner for all of the Final Fantasy VII games, or at least these two so far. It's very cool. Mark, you can keep going.
Well, and this last part I thought was interesting from like a technical perspective. So, in the FAQ, they talk about considering this to be something between a remake and a remaster. But the part that was interesting to me is that according to Square Enix, the new edition runs pretty much from the game's original programming. They just updated like with updated assets and presentation.
Right, but it's massively updated assets, right? Like,
Right.
it's the same. If they're not the exact same models, they're at least using the same designs as Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah. I've never played Crisis Core, if my memory's right, you never played it either.
Yeah, I didn't own a PSP, so and that's right. That's where it was
Yeah.
on PSP. Yeah. I was such a big fan of the original Final Fantasy VII, and like if I had had the opportunity, I totally would have at least given a try to Crisis Core. And I think I am duty bound and honor bound to play and experience this game when it comes. I can't believe it's a week from
I
now.
know, it's crazy. It's crazy. We talked about this a little bit in what we've been playing, but now that Splatoon 3's Chill Season update is live, we know the dates of the first big run event in Splatoon 3. Again, it's happening this Friday, December 9th, starting at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and runs through Sunday, December 11th at the same time. Big Run is a new event in Splatoon 3. You play Salmon Run in the Wahoo World stage, which is usually part of Turf Wars. But excited to see if there's other like changes to the game world, because the way that they've been leading up to this first big run, they've been talking about it in a way that made me think it was going to be more of like an event. And so we'll see if
Yeah.
like how for the Splatfests, they like take over the common area, and if they'll do a similar thing here.
I was sort of under the impression that the big runs would take place not in like a different level, but like in the actual like town hub, the city hub,
Right, in
right?
Splatsville, exactly. That's why.
That's what I thought.
That's when they're like, oh, it's like happening in Wahoo World. It's like, oh, that's cool that like you're playing Salmon Run on a turf war thing, but it's not what I thought it was going to be. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm hoping that like Splatsville itself gets like a big run makeover. Like it's like a state of emergency.
Right. Yeah. No, that would be very cool. And like sandbags up around like storefronts, would be very cool. I mean, you think that they would have to like redesign how Splatsville works to like, because there's not a lot of verticality or like different pathways through that area. But like they could do it. They could do it. It'd be super fun.
Yeah, it all makes it. I mean, yeah, what you're saying makes sense. Like, by as it is now, you couldn't really do Salmon Run in Splatsville, but that's what I feel like. That's what I was led to believe.
Yes, I feel like that's what we were led to believe, and also just I want it. Like that's the reason it sounds so improbable. Is the same reason why I want to see it. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
yeah, the area isn't surrounded by water, but let's get like water pouring in over the buildings or something. Like, I want to see it someday, Mark. I want to see it.
Finally, the Wii U celebrated its 10th anniversary last month, which we marked by each saying 10 nice things and only nice things
Only nice
about
things.
it. And
I
if you
still have the button. I can push the button at any time.
you wouldn't dare. If you haven't listened to that episode, go check it out. But the Wii U's 10th anniversary is a party that never ends. And a few days ago, the NPD group shared the top 10 best-selling Wii U games in the United States based on dollar sales. So here we go. Number 10, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Number 9 was Pokken Tournament. Number 8 was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Pretty crazy for being the last game, Nintendo first party game released on the system.
When being simultaneously released on another platform.
Yeah. Mario Party 10 at number 7. New Super Mario Bros. U at number 6. Splatoon at number 5. Super Mario 3D World at number 4. Super Mario Maker at number 3, which makes sense to me because it was such a good fit for that hardware.
Yep.
Number 2, Mario Kart 8. And number 1, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U.
Which again, I mean, just worth putting a pin in, knowing that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe would go on to be, such a behemoth on Switch. That Super Smash Bros. For Wii U sold better than Mario Kart 8. Mark, I owned 8 of these games.
Very good. Which ones did you not own? Let me guess.
I was gonna, yeah.
Mario Party 10.
Yeah, Mario Party 10 is correct.
And Pokken Tournament.
Pokken Tournament. Mark, you know me so well. Mark, which of these? It's also funny how many of these games have been either directly ported to Switch or more or less ported to Switch. Smash Brothers, more or less in Ultimate. Obviously, Ultimate is a much bigger deal. Mario Kart directly ported, and then with more stuff. Super Mario Maker 2 is kind of a port. Super Mario 3D World, yeah, exactly. Splatoon, I have argued that Splatoon 2 is just more Splatoon, but okay. New Super Mario Brothers U, yes, absolutely. Mario Party 10, no. We have not seen Mario Party 10 on Switch yet. Breath of the Wild, we already, yeah. Pokken Tournament and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, yeah, both of those are so basically all of these except for Mario Party 10.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
Well, Mark, the party never ends, but the episode has to end sometime. Let's close this out. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKA Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. There's also a Discord that we run where we're just hanging out, having fun conversations about Nintendo. You can email us or tweet at us for an invitation there, and you can have those fun conversations yourself. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.